All right, welcome to 614 Headsets with co-hosts Ryan Sayers, Donovan White, and myself, Kyle Stout. And I'm excited, man. This has been a passion project us three have been talking about for a while. And you always start off with a podcast and you think about like, what is your description or what are you? We're a sports show, we're a football show, but to us, I think it's a lifestyle. Tom Brady said it best. Football is unconditional love, and I think all three of us in here couldn't agree more. To us, we eat, sleep, and breathe football. Just so everybody knows, we're three high school coaches from Columbus, Ohio. One of the top areas probably in the U.S. that you could coach and think about sports, high school sports. And we just can't get enough of it. So if you have that same passion as us and you want to talk sports or topics, do some X's and O's, and we got some great people lined up in the future to hop on with us too, follow along with us. But first, I'm going to introduce Ryan, and Ryan's going to talk about our very first episode coming out today.
I appreciate everybody being with us, though, first, whoever's going to log in and watch this. But like Stout said, it's a lifestyle for us. When we want to talk about things that are lifestyle, you learn lessons through your lifestyles. And I think for us to talk about something that is lessons learned during a championship season is a great episode to kick off with. We all three have had a championship season this past season. So I think it's a exciting topic for everybody. Everybody wants to win championships, and everybody knows that football teaches the best lessons in life. So stay tuned. Listen to what we got to say. I'm excited. We all three are excited. I'm first going to introduce Donovan White.
What's going on, guys? My name is Donovan White. Going into my second year coaching overall, and second year coaching at Gahanna, where I'm from, coaching offensive line. I played football at Miami University down in the MAC for 5 years as an O lineman. Was fortunate enough to win a conference championship there in 2019. And my coaching style is pretty similar to my college coaches. Again, it's going to evolve a little bit as I grow and get older and get more experience. But I'm really committed to making these kids better, future husbands, dads, brothers, sons, whatever it may be, and trying to teach them those same life lessons I learned in college and in high school through football. So that's a little bit about me. Coach Sayers, go for it.
My guy. Well, first, he's super lucky. Stout said, that's his first year of coaching.
First year. Gets to go all the way to the regional championship. I keep telling him, he's so spoiled.
Doesn't happen every year.
No.
That was a lucky charm. I mean, that's what it is.
It took us 40.
I hope you get used to it, but I would say don't get used to it, right? Like, I hope you get used to it, though. But for me, I'm Ryan Sayers. I'm from Youngstown, Ohio. Right now, I currently coach at Northland High School. I'm the head football coach. I coached at Pickerington North High School right out of college. I went to Ohio Dominican University and played football there. I played defensive line. For me, man, I'm just excited to be on this podcast and do it with these guys. Obviously, we all love football, and my coaching style really is just about intensity and playing hard, playing fast. I always say, if you play fast and physical and you just get to the ball and you keep the game simple for your kids, it's going to be easy. You just have to make it easy for the kids. So that's what we try to do at Northland. We don't want to make it hard. We want every call to be simple. We want everything to run like a machine. And that's what we're trying to do, especially now going into my fourth year this year. And I always say too, the biggest thing in my style is, caring about the kids the most. Obviously, we all do it for the kids. And I always say, 10% of what I do is really coach football. 90% of what I do is, try to build these boys and the young men and try to get them ready for the real world. And, that's the exciting part when you get to see a kid, be successful later on in life. That's the fun part, I think. For us at Northland, we have kids that might not even just play football later on. So, you want to see them just, get their certifications and things. So that's the exciting part about high school football. It's not just football. So Stout, go ahead. You're next.
Yeah. Just to piggyback on that, I mean, to us, we know the landscape of the area, but a lot of people don't know, coaching in the city league, it has its challenges. And, you're going to offer a different perspective than Gahanna and I, two totally different types of communities. And that's what I'm really interested in learning about. And so when you talk about, being there for the kids and all that, it just means so much there. So like people understand, the scenarios in the background of what we're talking about. So a little about me, I'm from Ashland, Ohio. kind of a small town. And right out of high school, I was a preferred walk-on at Penn State. I got to play under Joe Paterno for 2 years, transferred and went to Ashland University. And I'm going into my 12th year coaching, where I've had different roles as a head coach or an offensive coordinator or some type of co-OC throughout the years. This is my 4th season at Gahanna Lincoln. So everybody understands, that's how Donovan and I know each other. It's kind of funny. Donovan was the first guy I called. When I came back to be the coordinator at Gahanna, he was call number 1 for me, trying to find a guy that I could trust, that cared about Gahanna football and cared about the offensive line as much as I do. So he was call 1 sitting at the kitchen table for me. Everybody understand, Ryan and I coached at Pickering North together. That's where we first met and became great friends. And it turned into 2 dads on the 3rd shift playing Call of Duty at 3 a.m., taking care of the babies.
The same exact time with the babies.
Yeah, we had them on sync, man. We had them scheduled. We had a routine. It was great. It was awesome. But, my style is evolving. I was the young coach who was the yeller at the start, the juice man and all that. And now I've kind of changed. And I feel myself changing throughout a lot of different ways. And I still coach really hard, but I've had to evolve and start to learn a lot of different positions. And I've had to learn how to bounce around, and I've had to learn how to trust assistant coaches and other guys. A little bit about me and my coaching style. I'm a big why guy. I'm a very detail oriented person, and I'm a big believer in a multiple offense. We run a lot of formations and a lot of personnel groupings. That's how I played in college. It fits kind of more of a pro style, and I love it because I think it lets you get multiple kids involved and match your strengths that for any given year. And it's funny to see where I'm at now and the offense I run now. There's still some things I did from the very beginning, but there's still some absolutely new things too. So I'm excited. I can't wait till we get to some more of the X's and O's type stuff. But, first, the introductions are done, and we can't wait till
I have to say something. I
What's
think
up?
it's hilarious. How old are you, Stout?
I'm 35. 35. Stop with that. See, here's Donovan's thing. He's a joke. Ha 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 ha. Like he always tries to make it seem like I'm 35.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. At 27, were you the loud guy yelling all the time?
I think probably in my 20s I was. Yeah.
I was just wondering, when do you think that wears off? Because I feel like it's never going to wear off. I just scream, I'm loud. But it's for a good reason. I'm not just doing it, but you know how I am. You've been around me coaching.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think it depends what role you're in. You know what I mean? I think it might depend what type of role you're in. It might depend what type of assistance you have. You know what I mean? If you have some assistance, I'll be loud for you. I think as I started to take more of an aerial view of having to see everything and constantly thinking about things was when I had to become a little bit more calm.
Well, that's a good thing. Well, I don't know. As a head coach, I think I still yell enough.
Yeah.
Everybody, you've been there. We said
it's different though. Because you don't call the defense, do you? You have a defensive coordinator. You help.
I help.
Right.
We work together on the defensive side.
Right.
This year, we have, he's let the guy that was my co-DC with me, that's worked with me for a while. He's had a baby, right? Life's rolling, and you know how that works. So, we hired another guy this year. So
I actually didn't know that. That's interesting to know. So I think it depends on your role. You know what I mean? Like maybe if you had but you're always going to be Mr. All Gas, No Brakes. So, getting into our first topic, like Ryan said, each one of us was part of a championship season last year, but we've all had championship seasons in the past too. We just want to try to see what were the lessons you learned from there? Like what could you maybe take from that to take to your team to change your culture? And I think we got a lot of really good ideas going on, and I'm excited to hear you go first, Ryan. I know the first couple of years did not start as what you probably expected. You had a lot of challenges. You had COVID. You had, start and stop and cancel the whole season and all those things. And, we've personally talked after every game and talked about challenges and talking in those peaks of life. And so I'm so excited that you finally, got to that point where you secured a part of a championship. And I can't wait to hear about what you learned and what are some of those things.
Man, I appreciate it. Like you said, the first few years were a little rough, right? And I had I've had two significant, besides the little league, high school stuff. You know what I mean? I've had two significant championships in my life. I had one at Ohio Dominican my senior year, my last year of playing. We won our GMAC conference championship, which was great. But then, this year was obviously special, right? Like we won against our rival, to secure a tie of the City North. And last year we lost to them on the 1 yard line as time ran out to tie the same way, the same exact scenario. It was the exact same scenario. And, it's a close ball game as you're going to the third, fourth, we've been up all game. This is to make the playoffs for the first time since 2013 for our school, not counting the COVID year where everybody made it. I mean, yeah, you don't count that. But I feel like for us, that was huge to have a repeat situation and see the changes that we made through that season compared to the last season. That's why it's kind of easy to talk on this right now because it was so recent for me. And I think, the one thing that I say that we definitely did more than we've ever had before, and it wasn't a matter of not coaching them, not wanting to do it. It was a matter of the kid having the kids. The first year was COVID year, 35 kids on the roster, right? My second year we had, we started with 51 and ended with like 42. And then, so it's really hard to practice when you're missing a lot of guys that aren't bought in and aren't, I've been around them for 2 years only and they're not trusting me. So last year we finally had that. We had that factor of guys that trusted us coaches. They bought into what we wanted to do. And the number one thing was competitiveness in practice. For us, like when you can't compete good on good or best on best and you're practicing against guys that, are not even close to what you're going to see on a Friday night and you just don't have the bodies, right? It's tough. Like, and it's really hard to go compete that week when you haven't competed since last Friday, the Friday before, because you're coming into practice and it's easy. You're trying to run half line and it's not really it's still not even best on best. You know what I mean? So it was tough. And you have guys banged up at the end of the season. You have guys that quit. You have JV players that, JV season's over. We're not playing, week 10 JV game, week 10 getting ready for the Beechcroft game. The one we lose on the 1 yard line because, I'm missing so many kids at practice. Now, this past year, we had kids at practice. Kids went to study tables, and then they competed at practice. We were able to split into two teams at times and really get after each other and be able to line up best on best, right, and do one-on-ones with each other. And we just had coaches at each position too. Our staff was great, and that was the best thing. It was competitiveness against the staff too. We wanted to compete against each other. So, even if it was scout team defense against 1-0, our scout team defense was screaming, going crazy. If it was the scout team offense against 1D and they scored, or if they even got 4 yards, we were, going crazy for the offense and making it competitive for the kids. And that was literally key to our season. And I think it showed. The second thing was just our players led the team last year. Our coaches didn't have to. And I think that's huge. Like, I think good teams are led by coaches, right? If you have a good season, but great teams are led by the players. And that's with buy-in. If they buy into what you're saying, they believe it, right? And it's the little things. It's not buying into the offensive scheme you have. It's not buying into the defensive blitzes you call. It's not buying into the zone coverage. It's not that. It's not any of that. I think it's buying into the little things, like running on and off the field, believing in, having your helmet buckle ready to play every snap, right? Like the little things, cleaning up the practice field, making sure your place looks nice, right? Like for us, it's important. Like we're a city school. To me, it's important that when people drive past high school, there's not one bottle, there's not one wrapper, I pick everything up as I'm walking, because we are a city school, so people believe that's what we should look like. You know what I mean? So when we painted the stadium when I first got there, when we've painted the, locker room, we rearranged the weight room to make it look better. That's what's important. You know what I mean? The little things and getting them to buy in and appreciate where they're from. And that's what we had in our players, bought into everything. I didn't have to yell, run off the field. You know, I didn't have to up down everybody because helmets were unbuckled. I didn't have to do those things and waste 50 seconds, 45 seconds out of a practice 6 times, which adds up to, you know what I mean, whatever math it is. And now you're wasting minutes off of your day. And, you know, those are critical in high school football when everyone's playing both sides.
How did you get there, though? I mean, I think it's a great point to ask, because it's funny, because you would think, like, you know, coming off the year we had, that has been kind of one of the largest things we have said this offseason is about raising the bar and making the culture be player led. Like, we don't have a bad culture. I'm not saying that, but it's just constantly trying to find ways to make it elite or better. And I feel like it's so hard to get kids to want to lead and do those hard things. How did you get, or was there any type of strategy to get from where you were in the beginning to when you actually felt like it was player led?
I think the things that we did in the off season were critical, right? Bringing in speakers to talk about leadership stuff, you know, meeting with the players individually, and then also giving the players, I would say, you know, ownership of the program. My seniors take ownership of everything, right? What's on our shirt this year? What's going to be our slogan? What are we going to tag on Twitter? Every post that I post with football, what are we going to tag? And it's really just engaging with those guys and getting them to, this is our program. You know what I mean? It's you know, I don't take, what music are we listening to at practice? Or you guys need to send, what music are we listening to before the game? You need to send me a playlist that's clean, no cuss words, nothing like that. You know what I mean? We will listen to your guys' music. And some people don't believe in that. You know, some people's, you know, mindset is, you know, their ways, you know, but I feel like I truly believe that if you evolve with your players and you change with your players and you get better, you want to do the things that they want to do, right? While also disciplining them on the little things, they're going to be successful because they're going to want to play for you. And you got to have the kids want to play for you. And so when you give them the ownership of some things on your program, that is the shirt, the tags, the little things, right? The things that really don't matter, but the kids love and they care about, right? What's on the jersey? What does our new jersey look? We bought 3 sets of new jerseys now since I've been there. New helmets, new shoulder pads. We changed our logo on our stuff. We get the kids Nike. You know what I mean? We've done a lot of things. We fundraise a ton, and we get them to love Northland. And I want them to love where they're from, right? We haven't lost a kid to transferring since I've been there, and that's, I think, you know, amazing and a testament to my assistant coaches and what they've done and what their teammates have done. Like, it's like we try to make it a family now, and like, you know, we've talked before, like this year's kind of, you know, no retreat, no surrender, like no one leave, no one go, like nowhere. Cause we got, you know, we have 26 returning lettermen. We're coming to, you know, play football this year. We're ready to roll. So it's exciting. Like, we're excited for that. And then I would say being consistent with what you do as a coach. Like, if one day you're yelling at them to run on and off the field, can't do that. You can't not do it the next day or let it go on just the walkthrough day. It has to be consistent in everything. And that's what we did with our lives. And I think for city kids and kids that don't have a schedule and don't have consistency at home and don't always have the best home life, right? If you can provide them with a schedule, consistency, and caring about them, then it's going to be, you're going to be successful. And I think that's anywhere, though. That's not just in the city. You know what I mean? But like, I think you guys do that again. I see your guys, and it's great to watch how you guys have evolved too, though, because you have different struggles than what I have, but everyone has struggles, right? Like, there's not one high school football coach that will get on this podcast and be like, life is so easy. We don't have no problems at our school. It's so easy to coach. We get everything we want. You know what I mean? It's just not, It's not realistic, but we do it because we love it. And that's why we're on here too, is because we love it.
And just a little pivot. This is something I'm going to throw to our staff. I thought it was a really cool idea I heard last year with the whole music and ownership. It was during camp and practice and stuff. You name a player of the day who maybe had a great practice before, and he gets a special jersey for the next practice, and he gets to make the playlist. So like everybody knows that guy in that jersey, he's the dude from last week or last practice, and he gets to make the playlist for the next practice. And I hope that's something we can do this year. I think it's a really cool idea.
Right.
But I love to hear it. I had one other question. And how does your team seem different, or how's your team handling the success off of last year?
The best thing, and like one thing that I kind of took from Nate, right? Like you coached with Nate before, right? Like, and you always want to practice more as an assistant coach. You always want more time as an offense coordinator. You always want more time as an O-line coach. You're always going to want more time as a D coordinator. It's never going to change. And as a head coach, when I got into the role, I was like, man, I do truly believe what Nate has said, right? You got to make them want to come to practice. You got to make them want more, right? And so for our kids, we want them to want more. So we'll give them little tidbits of things, right? And then I tell our coaches, don't go any farther than what we said we were going to give them. You know what I mean? Don't teach them anything new. Don't teach them anything else. What we said we're going to do and what we're going to install is what we're going to focus on that day. If they ask questions, we'll get to that. You know what I mean? We want them to want to know more. You know what I mean? And we continue to, teach them and develop them like the way we want, because we go over our installs super in depth, right? Like this is how we wanted to build on to each other. We just like a classroom, we teach style, and you have to build your scaffold, everything, you know what I mean? And we do that on the field too. And I feel like for our kids, when we're able to, build on everything, then they're able to put everything together, right? Like now they see the big picture. Now they see everything happening in front of them. And now our kids are begging for us to let them open the field, right? Open the gate. Kids are lifting at lunch. We have a strength coach now. Our district finally let us get a strength coach. He lifts the kids at lunch. He lifts them throughout the day. We have kids that are begging to come in there. If they have good grades, they come in there. I have a teacher also, and this is also another part, right? Buy-in from your school. That and the teachers that are around the kids, right? Like I have some teachers that are freaking amazing at Northland, dude. Like they run the study tables for me. They call me in every situation, make sure that our kids are where they're supposed to be. Like, hey, is this football kid, what's he supposed to do? Da, 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 da. And they do everything a lot for us. And that's another piece that really helps this year, is that we won last year. And I think winning gets people to want to be involved. When they see that you can maybe be pretty good the next year, they kind of want to get into it, right? Like they I'm sure Bruce has been hit up a lot more about assistant coaching and things like that after, you guys had the season you had, you know what I mean? And the success you had. And I always say winning cures all, you know what I mean? So that's kind of what we've done in Northland. That's kind of how we've done it. And I think this year, that's what our kids are about, is wanting more and coming every day. And our kids don't miss, you know what I mean? Our kids are running track. Our kids are at baseball. Then they make sure that they get to their 7-on-1 workout. You know what I mean? Right after we schedule them for right after their workouts, so that we're seeing all our kids throughout the entire year, which has been fantastic. And they bring their football cleats with their track cleats. They bring, you know what I mean? Then they bring a snack, they bring their water. They make sure that they're prepared to be successful, get their work in and be successful.
That's good, man. Hey, we're going to pivot. Donovan, you've been quiet.
Yeah,
right,
man.
You've been quiet.
Am I up now?
You've been quiet.
Get in there.
I'm supposed to go next, but you know what, Donovan? So you don't fall asleep. You go next.
All right, let's do this.
I
So
want to hear from Donovan. That's who I don't care about. You
I know.
guys.
I'm going to let Donovan go. I'm going to tune in.
I'm going to engage with Donovan. You shut up, Stout.
My perspective's a little different, right? Obviously, I'm only 2-3 years removed from playing in college, so it still feels like it was yesterday. I'm sure it still feels like yesterday to you guys, but I mean, in grand scheme of things, like it doesn't feel like I graduated 2 years ago, right? And stopped playing 2.5, 3 years ago. But the biggest takeaway I had from the college side, at least from playing, and I'll get into coaching, from Miami was, and I got this from my O-line coach, was staying steady, right? He always preached on, you can enjoy the high points of a game, of a practice, of a moment in life. You can enjoy the high points, and you kind of feel bad at the low points in games, practice, life, but you could never let your baseline mental state get that high or get too low. He always said, enjoy it and learn from it, But if you're a heartbeat, you're never going up with it too far. You're always staying at the same rate because you never know when you have to fluctuate back and forth in a situation. So that was kind of what we leaned on. We leaned on, especially as a unit, getting back to our mental state and our core values and who we were as a unit. And so the preface that I've told this story to a few other people. So that came into play the most in 2019, junior year, our fourth year. Right. I mean, we were riding high. We had a great summer off season. Me and a few of my other close buddies got put on scholarship. I mean, it was a great time going into the season. We opened up that season at Iowa, played them really close through the first 3 quarters, ended up losing by like 2 touchdowns. But so we had some momentum going after that. Played an FCS team, beat them. Played Cincinnati week 3, lost by like 35. The next week we had to play Ohio State, and Cincinnati had just played them and lost 42-0. So you could see the gears kind of turn in people's heads of like, we just lost by 30, since they just lost by 42, 45. Like, what's going on here? Roll into Ohio State week 4. We lose 76-5. 76-5. Like, I mean, just, and I'm pumped up. I'm going back to playing the horseshoe, right? Like, I'm doing all this. Like, I'm seeing it's awesome, right? And then next, it's 76-5, right? And so at that point, it's like you kind of as a team. And
Time out. What was the score at half?
So halftime was 49-5. We got up.
What did the coach say? Do you remember? I've always wondered, like, what do you say?
Yeah, what do they say in those games where it's kind of like?
What do they say? What was halftime? Do you remember?
Those like Ohio State, it was more. It wasn't like he was embarrassed or like angry for us. It was just more of like, I mean, he was screaming at us. My head coach was a very vocal guy where there's a lot of stories that, I mean, I'm sure you guys have both, you can't say on podcasts or shows or anything, but it was not a like, what's wrong with you? What are you doing? It was a very loud and I'm clearly angry, but like, you got to decide who you want to be for the second half on national television. Now, other games, like when we played like Notre Dame and got blanked, it was a demolition in the halftime from him. But that game, it was, all right, like, who are you going to be in the second half? Still lost 76-5, but and after that game, you're sitting there like you're getting on the bus and you're reading the tweets, you're seeing the Barstool stuff, like you're seeing all this stuff. And as a team, as a player, as a unit, you kind of have to decide like, okay, what are you going to do from here? Like, are you going to be everything that they're saying you are? A joke of a team, a joke of a conference, whatever it may be. And yeah, that Ohio State team was good. Were they 71 points better? I don't know. I don't think so. But that's how the dice rolled. And at that point in the season, we were getting into conference play, won a game at Buffalo. Next week, we lost big time to Western Michigan, but we just stayed steady. We stayed steady, ripped off wins against our rival, against OU, close wins against Northern Illinois. And at one point, we had secured our spot into the conference championship game. And that was like week 10 or 11, and we struggled against 0-12 Akron, right? We struggled against 0-12 Akron, and the last game of the regular season, we got beat by 15, 20 points against Ball State, who didn't make a bowl game. And even throughout all that, it always reverted back to that moment and that foundation of, listen, you can get really pissed off at the lows. I mean, that the locker room after Ball State a week before trying to go win a ring was a really low moment in Miami football program that season and in general. But we stayed steady. We let ourselves get down for a second and learn from that and then drive back up. And so that's the biggest takeaway I've tried to express thus far, at least in high school coaching, through high school coaching, was that ability to stay steady. And it's hard for kids, right? High school kids, let alone college kids, to do it. But that's the thing I've tried to impress. And then again, it's only been 1 year and obviously a successful year winning a regional championship. But biggest thing I've taken away from that season was I came into that unit and Coach Stout, you know this better than me, that those kids went through, I don't know, 3 offensive line coaches in 3 years. Those seniors, I was their 4th offensive line coach. I was a kid who, was only a handful of years older than them. And so it's like, all right, what's going to be different? This guy might be here for a year and then he's going to leave again. And so for me, it was building that trust with that unit. And I think that's got to be the foundation, whether you're a head coach, coordinator, position coach, assistant strength coach, whatever it is, you got to build some level of trust with your unit if you want to have any kind of success. At the very least, if you want to have any kind of respect. And so that's kind of the lesson I learned, at least from last year. And I'm sure I'll pick up more lessons as I go through my coaching career.
I love it, man. It's interesting because I think it's so awesome. Is it Chuck Martin?
Yeah.
It's to see. I remember the season that you talked about where started off 0-6 and then rattled off 6 more to go on and become bowl eligible.
Yep.
And obviously doing good things now. Let me ask you this though. I got him on the hot seat. What's one thing you would change since we coached together? What's one thing coming in as maybe you played there, now you coach there? What's one thing that is absolutely different that you weren't expecting, or it's one thing you might say we have to change? I didn't think this was going to be like this. We got to change this.
Man, I'll give you this part first. The one thing I didn't expect, I expected to be a little different, but for background, Bruce Ward's our head coach. I was a junior when he came in his first year, right? So now he's my head coach again. And when we were there, I remember we were trying to change the culture and the image of what Gahanna was. And we grew confidence, but there was still, when you played certain teams, there was always that thought in the back of your head of like, oh crap, this is XYZ. Like, oh crap, this is a team from Cincinnati, or this is a team from Cleveland. I remember vividly my senior year conversations with guys when we found out we were playing a team from Cincinnati, right? And that just seemed like it was stuck in our heads and in the program's heads there. And coming in this year to be able to be around these kids and to feel the change that they've gone through of, we don't really care who you are. Like, we know who we are. We know what we can be. That mindset had shifted completely. And it wasn't a factor. It didn't seem like it was a factor this year of the comparison game of, we're Gahanna, we do XYZ, but they're so-and-so, they do ABC. That was the biggest thing. Going in, changing this, going into the season, changing things. One, hopefully having not to, practice on different places and play on different fields as much from a home field standpoint, but I think that'll hopefully change, fingers crossed. But I don't know, man. I think just building this team up to where if every one of us as coaches left tomorrow, it wouldn't be like anything changed culture wise and leadership wise in this team. I think, like you kind of mentioned, Stout, just the players lead it. And I think they're starting to get there, starting to see that. But you just want to have that where you could feel confident, where if I was gone for a day and you couldn't coach the O-line, they're going to run their own ship. And it's going to be just like if one of us were there, kind of that self-sustaining feeling.
So for your offensive line, though, what did you bring from college do you think that translated the most into high school, though?
Yeah, from a coaching standpoint, probably, I think I could relate to them well because, one, I played at Gahanna. Some of them knew my brother. They played with my brother, who was just a few years removed. I think it was more of the experience of being able to understand what it was like to be coached by their same coaches, by our running backs coach, our head coach, our strength coach, some of our defense coaches, and then being able to just relate with them, share stories about what it's like playing in the horseshoe, even if you're losing by 70 points. Right. Relate to them about, whatever is going on at school. Cause I walked those same hallways, right? I did all those same things with them. I knew guys that they had played with, so on and so forth. So that relationship aspect, I think, is what helped me out the most. It's high school football. So there's some of the technique and the verbiage, it still comes along, right? It's different from what we learned in college is, playing at a high level. It's different. So that relationship building, I think, is what kind of came quickly and surprisingly to the high school level.
How old are you?
25.
25. So when I started coaching, I was 22, 23 as well. So I was right around that age. But I'm just curious about, I'm still young too. I'm I'm not acting like I can't even act like I'm like Stout's age, 42 or whatever. But being like a young guy still, right? How do you separate, as a coach, how do you separate the relationship of being, a buddy and a friend to also being just a coach and making sure that they know that there's like a fine line that you can be around, but it's time to go is coach time. Like, how did you establish that as a young guy?
Truthfully, it's going to sound dumber, I think, than it is, but I think you guys both get it. I mean, there was my first offseason last year with them, and then we did a lot of lifting, some work where we could get it. And then as you got into the summer where we could start to do some actual football stuff in small amounts, and then we go to our team camp, it was a very, I don't want to say a quick switch that they saw, but it was, hey, like, this is Coach White. Like, he's my buddy. Like, he's my friend almost. Like, he's been talking to me like we're friends and getting on me to work hard. But they just needed to see that switch could be flipped one time. You make one wrong pull, whoa, Coach White's screaming at you, or he's, doing X, Y, Z. And I think sometimes from, our experiences in college, you hear different things from coaches than you do sometimes in high school football. Again, can't say some of those things out loud on a show, but I think you hear different things, and you kind of know how to talk to kids without pushing that line that you might have heard in college when it comes to high school. And so when you get a taste of that line, I think as a high school kid, they go, okay, this is more serious than I thought. So I tried to build that relationship with them first, so that when I did have those moments where I called them out in front of people, I, told them the truth straight to their face. It wasn't coming from a place of, who's this guy? It was coming from a place of, okay, like, this must be genuine, because I've known him as something different for the past 4 or 5 months. Now this is happening. This must be genuine.
Right, so that's the good thing. Like, I love when my coaches. So I have a coach that's kind of like super quiet, doesn't never cuss, doesn't never say nothing crazy to kids, like just real mellow receiver coach, like never gets off track, but or out of line. But if you hear him say one cuss word, or you hear him raise his voice and go, it catches every single person's attention, even mine. I'll look, if he says a cuss word, I'll look like he just ran a baby over or something in his car. I'm like, oh my, Coach Bell's like, don't say a cuss word. You cannot swear. Like, I don't like hearing you say that. But the old man's turns now, though. So
I'm up, huh?
Come on, father time. Let's go.
Father time. The old man of the group.
Hey, I looked at the script, right? Obviously, we wrote a little bit of stuff, but here's mine. Here's Donovan's. There's Stout's whole entire list of just coaching. He's the man with many, many things to say here, much wisdom. So
I don't know, but I came up really with two main core ideas, and just to kind of think about it, the last 3 years have been a wild, amazing ride. I've been a part of 2 conference championships in the last 3 years, one at Pickerington North. A year 2, then following that championship, we were super close. I mean, there's a couple plays, a couple situations where you think we almost won again, and then winning this one at Gahanna. So very close to almost winning 3 in a row. This past season we were 13-2, conference championship, regional championship, Final Four. And as I look back, though, it was a long process to get there. Like, I didn't win a conference championship until that year at Pick North, like year 10 of coaching. I was even on a team as a coach when I was younger. We were 9-1 and still didn't win a conference championship. The team that beat us was 10-0 in the final minutes of the game. And it just felt like something that was it ever going to happen? You know what I mean? This guy was with part of so many good teams and so close so many times, and even in college close, and it just didn't happen. But I think across those couple of years where we won championships, the biggest lesson I learned is visualization. A visualization or a theme. And I'm not talking this year's theme is all in. That's easy. You build a fable. You build a journey. You know what I mean? The first year at Pick North, it was brick by brick. and what we did is we took these bricks, right? We took a brick, and when we beat a team, we'd put their name on it. We'd stack that brick. And so we would stack these bricks with all the team's name on it. And we said, brick by brick, we're going to lay this foundation. We're going to win this championship. And we talked about it every day, and it was on a scouting report. And we made this image. We made this visualization. We built this fable, this journey. And as you have success in it, you can see the kids start to buy into it, and it takes on a life of its own. Last year's season, we took it a step further, and we actually built this past season's idea or visualization or theme in February before. And we sat down as a whole staff, and we created what we called the mountain, right? This epic peak, this journey you were going to have to go on. This, if you could get to the top, like this achievement, right? And so for Gahanna, we hadn't won a conference championship in 21 years. It felt unobtainable. It just seemed like it was so far away, so much adversity, a mountain, this huge undertaking to try to get to the top. And so we built this mountain image, right? And we had 6 base camps because, if you go climb Mount Everest or you go climb a tall peak, a lot of times you go to a base camp and you come back down or go to the next base camp. And so we had these 6 base camps, right? And at the bottom, we had some program, cultural, core value type stuff, right? Respond to adversity, our acronym for our core values. And then at the top 3, we got into game-specific things. We had win the turnover margin, win the rushing battle. We had explosive plays. And so what we felt like is if we could do those 6 things along the way every day and in games, we were going to have a chance to get to that top of the mountain together. We stole it from the Indianapolis Colts. I can't say we did it ourselves. Like coaching is stealing. And so
if you try to reinvent the wheel, you're losing in the game.
So we stole it. I'm laying in bed with COVID. I'm screenshotting this, watching Hard Knocks on HBO, and I'm sending it to the staff. I'm saying, I got this amazing idea. But we put a lot of thought into what our steps were. So we took that analogy, but we made our own steps personal to us. We do a team camp every year. I never thought I'd like a team camp on the outside before I ever went to one. I always thought I would hate a team camp. Went to my first one, love it. I'm a big believer in taking your whole team away from everything, and it's just all football and all your guys and your family. And that's when we rolled it out to our guys. And it really took on a life of its own. We talked about it every Monday at the start of the week in what we call our culture talk. And we talked about it every day with our kids. And as we started to have success and it felt like it was going to become obtainable, it took on a life of its own. Our players even started to use that analogy and they talked about it. We got to the point where it was week 10 heading to the final game. And we're here. We're at the last stage. We're going to get up to the top of this thing. We were heading to the regional championship. And I had everybody hold their hands up like this. I made the entire team hold their hands up like this. And it was, you do what we ask you to do these next couple of days. Everybody's going to be doing that by Friday night, So I think if you can build some visualization or some themes with your team and build a message, but it's got to be more than just a phrase for the year. Something that takes your core values or what it takes to win. I think that is my biggest thing that we did across 2 championship seasons to make that happen. And then my second idea or lesson is kind of a big belief of mine of winning the rushing battle, building your team and your identity to doing that. I think if you
can't. Stout loves it. Stout love. Yeah. You knew you had to add that in.
Come on, man. You knew. I'm gonna spit some statistics at you though. Okay. So we're taking it a step further this year and taking some of these core values and attaching data to it to build a belief. Because it's one thing if we show a kid a concept or how to block something, but when you turn on like an NFL film and they see NFL guys blocking it or doing something, right? Now they believe you. You know what I mean? Now they're glued. And that's what we do. Sometimes when we install stuff, we'll show some clips or some screenshots of us, and then we'll find NFL cut-ups and we'll show NFL or college teams doing it. And it's like, we got it. They believe us now, But I think they're core values that can transform your team. If you can build your team around a toughness and winning the rushing battle, it's not just an offensive goal. It's a defensive goal too.
I'm just
especially.
I'm playing with you. That is a soul taker and a demoralizer for
Mhm.
either team on whatever side of the ball it is. If you win the rushing battle,
And it's especially you have kids that play on both sides of the ball. You make it a priority, So I was getting ready for next season, so we started to build next season's theme and journey once again. The top has changed. Our top goal is different, and even some of our steps along the bottom have changed. Even, and it gets heated. I mean, we had probably like a 2-hour conversation
Mhm.
as a staff picking what would go on there, and what, and
I,
it just gets so heated.
I was in the lobby at the hotel when you
You
guys
probably
figured
heard
out
us.
that there was a little. I could feel a little tension in the air at the lobby, and it's good to have that on your staff though.
But it's purposeful. It's a lot of, thought that goes into it. But I think you'll have a heart and identity. And just to give it to you. So as doing some statistics, it was like the 2021 college season. If you could rush for one more yard than your opponent, you were most likely to win, something like 70% chance of winning.
Jeez.
Okay. Just by 1 yard. We're not even talking turnovers or those other categories on the mountain, but by 1 yard. And in last season, we had almost 3,400 yards rushing versus our opponents who had 1,300. We averaged 6.7 yards per carry versus the team opponents. All opponents had 2.9. And I'm saying that because we were a great rushing team. We controlled it. We had good players. I'm not going to sit here and say we didn't. We had an amazing defense who gave us more opportunities. In fact, there were many times we called the game in saying our defense is our strength. How do we let them shine and not take away from them in any way or put them in bad situations? But I think that mentality transferred over into other things. We had no stadium past week 2. We played 2 home games, and then our stadium got renovated and still is under renovation. We played 13 road games. We practiced on this middle school field. And then we moved to a soccer field with no lines or anything. We couldn't start till 4:30. There were all these excuses of things that got in the way. But I really think we were so mentally tough, and we had built this culture of toughness and responding to adversity. And there were some games too where we came out and we might have been winning or we were close at halftime, but it wasn't us. You know what I mean? But we were able to get on those kids and hit that right switch and activate that toughness, that mentality that flipped over into the next half. And so I think those are really 2 themes. If I were going to build a championship season, what I would focus on.
Now let me ask you this, and we've talked about this, and this I guess this go for both of you guys, but Coach Stout, we're coming off this season. How do you, when you're building a new message for a season, a new theme, and you're trying to visualize that for them, how do you not build complacency in terms of, oh, this is another theme, like we loved the theme last year, but we're just going to do it all over again, right? Like this theme is great, like but we're just going to do it all over again. How do you get out of that aisle of complacency when it comes towards that visualization of your campaign for the year?
I think you got to find the pulse of your team. I think you, through being around your team and being in the weight room and knowing your players, and we talked about relationships and trust, you figure out the pulse of that team a little bit, right? And where are we? Where do we want to go? And so I think that with the pulse with our team, it's understanding that last year was last year. We have to recognize how that elevated the program. And even on this year's image, like we have a flag on that image with the date of last year, but to signify like where we came and how it's starting and how we're starting a new journey. And then I think the mission then is moving past that and getting into your leaders and forgetting last season. And I think that's kind of what I think is you constantly figure out where your team's at, what the pulse is like, and what do they need in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's so unique. Like all of us have different views on what the championship season takes, and I think it goes to a testament, obviously, of like you have to learn your team, you have to figure out who your kids are, right? Like and learn your environment. Because in high school football, obviously, a lot that'll be a lot of people watching this, right? Like is going to be high school coaches we expect, and I think that we all know that every year your team changes in multiple ways due to the fact we don't get to go recruit our kids. Like, you get what you get, right? Like, who comes out from the school. You're not you got to change it, and Stout, your offense is great because it's multiple offense. You can run different things, and you're always going to have different kids. So that's one good thing. And I think the other unique thing is, you said it took you 10 years, right, to win a conference championship in your coaching career, and you felt like forever. Like, for me, in my coaching career, it took me 6, and it felt like forever. I think that no matter what, as a person, we're always going to feel like, and your next, Donovan, chill.
Yeah.
I think your right, like, and Donovan, like, say that
One.
And you guys, I hope your career, Donovan, the sweetest thing would be hopefully Donovan wins a conference championship every year he coaches.
That's
right.
So
But like,
bad.
whenever you have that 1 year off, I think 1 year of not winning is going to feel like forever.
Oh, it's going to be an itch. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, it's
Yep.
out when you don't, if you don't win it, like, whatever, it's going to feel like forever that next year until you're battling after it. And what I told our kids the other day, weightlifting, and it's my favorite thing to bring up, is, yeah, we're practicing all this time. We're going hard. You got 10 guaranteed times to perform and show what you have, right? And that's put in like perspective to them. You know what I mean? How meaningful the game is to us, right? Like, how much it means to each one of us in this room that we've put in multiple hours every day, and we're still here doing it. And we only get, you get 10 days for sure.
No, that's great, man. And so it took us 3 tries with all the technology, but we did it.
Smooth.
We got episode 1 done. Thanks for joining 614 Headsets. If you want to hear more, make sure you subscribe to our podcast on Apple or Spotify, and make sure you watch our YouTube channel at 614 Headsets. Follow us on social media at Coach Stout GLHS, Coach Sayers 50, and Donnie Mac 98. And we got some ideas ready, but we would love some feedback. What do you think? What should we do differently? Or if you got a great topic, let us know, and we would love to build an episode.
Or if you want to be on here, or you want to be a guest,
yes,
join us.
Come on,
absolutely.
Go
All
Vikings! Right. No, that's all I got to say.
All right, fellas. I love you. Appreciate you. Can't wait to go again next week.
Have a great night, you guys.